Canoe's so nice and light. You can carry it with one hand. Here in the river country. The Wawiag is the only river in the Quetico Superior to have pronounced levees. Levees form when the coarser sediment carried by the river is deposited on the river banks when floodwaters spill over. The river's levees are enriched with new sediment and organic material whenever the river floods. These narrow river levees support a veneer of trees with a lush understory and a bog lying just beyond. The diversity of the flora here is extraordinary. American elm, red ash, and silver maple, trees that are rare in Quetico, dominate these levees. Box elder, also known as Manitoba maple, also grows on these levees, the only known location of this tree in Quetico. There are many bird species that, while extremely rare in other parts of Quetico and the BWCA, are fairly common. These include eastern kingbirds, tree swallows, white-winged crossbills, rose-breasted and evening grosbeaks, Cape May warblers, hawk owls, and great gray owls. Not surprisingly, the rich alluvial sediment at the mouth of the river also supports an abundance of aquatic vegetation, including 3 species of water lilies. In addition to the common species of white and yellow, comes a red disc yellow water lily. This unusual species is a hybrid found only where both of the parents are present. Native peoples have lived near the mouth of the Wawiag for thousands of years. Paleo-Indians probably hunted barren ground caribou when the area was tundra, and woodland caribou, white-tailed deer, and moose when the area became forested. The faded pictographs on both sides of the entrance to Kawnipi Bay are reminders of the particular significance of this area. The concentration of natural resources near the confluence was a magnet that attracted native people. The variety and abundance of wild game and edible plants found there could be matched by few places in the Quetico Superior landscape. Moose and waterfowl were plentiful. Wild rice grew in the river, and in some of the nearby bogs, a variety of edible berries and medicinal plants could be gathered. Whitefish, suckers, and walleye and northern pike could be netted in the mouth of the river. Red maple and silver maple were available for tapping for maple syrup, and the levees provided soil for gardens. When government policies forced the nomadic Ojibwa to stipulate a single small area as their official residence, it isn't surprising that the people living primarily in the eastern half of what is now Quetico Park chose the mouth of this river as their reserve. Although the mouth of the river is rich in resources, the number of people registered at Reserve 24C shrank from 52 in 1876 to just 19 in 1909 when the Quetico Forest Reserve was created, and to just 4 in 1915. Robert Reedman, chief ranger of the reserve, stated that the village had been abandoned earlier because smallpox had decimated the population. The Ojibwa and Kawa were hit especially hard by this, and their population never recovered. As a guide in the primitive lake regions of the Hudson Bay watershed, Sigurd lived with men from every walk of life. He's learned to know them more intimately than their closest friends at home, their dreams, their hopes, their aspirations. He's seen them come from the cities down below, worried and sick at heart, and has watched them change under the stimulus of wilderness, living into happy, carefree, joyous men to whom the successful taking of a trout or the running of a rapids meant far more than the rise and fall of stocks and bonds. Ask these men what it is they have found, and it would be difficult for them to say. This they do know, that hidden back there in the country beyond the steel and the traffic of towns is something real, something as definite as life itself, that for some reason or other is an answer and a challenge to civilization. Trolling along, just to give you a little feel. Beautiful Kawnipi. There's the campsite. You're running the company that makes these boats.
Sir. Jackson from La Crosse area. John from La Crosse. Crescent, Minnesota, yep.
Look at the shape of these.
Red Feather Outdoors is the brand.
Wow.
So we're doing them in carbon with basalt negra. All basalt negra. We're going to do a couple hybrids that are going to have some Kevlar. Baumgart, B-A-U-M-G-A-R-T. Jackson Baumgart Outdoors.
There's another one waiting in the water, trying to come out. It's so much fun solving these fishing mysteries. You know, this is a very well-used campsite. I've always known that. I've been here before. I even remember the tent pad when I got here. And I always knew, even though I've never seen it marked on a map, that there's got to be a good walleye hole around here that would draw people to this spot. As well, I found a couple of places where people have built the wall to keep the fish in. As we just drop our fish into a cook bag. So there's a nice flat that extends out right from this campsite and goes out for hundreds of yards and maintains a base of about 10 feet. So it's just full of walleyes. We've got our fillets in a cook bag. We're baking with steam. Once we insert into the bake packer, there it is. And there's our steam coming out the side. We set our watch. So what we're doing now is pouring in some sauce. Walleye steaks in Hollandaise. We're leaving McVicar. South, gonna stay close to the islands and take advantage of this tailwind. Oh, are we lucky? Not all waves are created equal. Wind waves are short, choppy, and steep, and are generated by the wind in a local area. Swells are characterized by smooth surfaces with the longer wavelengths and are generated by distant weather systems. Swells are found only on the largest lakes, whereas wind waves are found everywhere. When paddling into wind waves, it's common for the bow to crash into an oncoming wave, giving the bow paddler a free shower. The solution is to take the waves on a 45-degree angle. This lengthens the distance between the crests of the waves. It also decreases the slope and makes for a drier ride. Paddling parallel to a wind wave is an unstable position and should be avoided. If you must paddle in wave troughs, keep your hips loose and allow the boat to move with the water as it passes under. When paddling with wind waves from behind, use a strong rudder to keep the boat from broaching. Momentum is your friend. When faced with an oncoming wave, many inexperienced paddlers will freeze. Instead, maintain your rhythm and keep paddling. Your boat is more stable with your paddle in the water and with forward momentum. Concentrate on planting your paddle at the top of every wave and imagine driving your hips forward and over the crests. By far, the best addition to paddling in areas likely to encounter swells and wind waves is a spray deck. Spray decks keep water out of the boat better than any other accessory and significantly add to your comfort and safety in waves. The open design of a canoe means that even moderate waves can break over the bow and cause the boat to take on water. Canoes with greater rocker and flare are more enjoyable and safer to paddle in waves. Because swells come in sets of differently sized waves, some will break over underwater rocks and ledges, while others will not. Nautical charts show underwater features you may wish to avoid that topographical maps do not. Always look well ahead of where you are and make a mental note of where swells are breaking before you get there.
So these waves are really rolling in now, and I'm finding that by staying ahead of them, going nearly their speed or even faster, really helps me keep the water out, because it's coming right up to the gunnels on those big troughs. Woo! Riding these babies. And then you gotta creep over a little bit. So just landed at the bottom of Agnes. It's 5:37. Just unloaded. Look at this. Grabbed a marginal spot here that has a really nice tent pad. I'll show you. Never ever worry about getting to the bottom of Agnes and not finding a place to sleep. Look at that beautiful tent pad there. Nothing overhead to worry about. Love it. And look at this. It's so darn soft. Really don't even need an air mattress. It's a nice spot, all things considered, on the southern tip of Agnes, which really sort of brings the trip to a close, because this is it. Tomorrow is about a half day of travel, and so we'll see. We've been so fortunate. The weather's been so good. People camped right there. They've done a pretty good job of keeping it low key. And then there's people right across there. 2 to go. This is the longest portage of the trip, probably 90 minutes total. And the bugs are as bad as I've ever seen. The trail in here now, from Sunday Lake going into Agnes, it's a long trail. There's 2 of them. They're long, but they're really well maintained. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that as I go down the trail to get the next load. Your husband, is it okay to walk by?
Yep. She's just afraid of bug net.
Yeah. Show you where the local Boy Scouts came in and actually improved the trail. They built a nice bed and then filled it in with gravel. For 30 years now.
Nice.
I'm telling you, that is the face that I want to see.
Thanks to Bud Dixon for providing us with the Trapper Cabin adventure. But my debt of gratitude to him goes much deeper, as he, along with his partner, Jim Clark, are my first wilderness paddling mentors. They both guided extensively throughout Quetico, particularly in the northern half, and the lessons and principles they taught me over the span of about a decade serve me to this day. The only reason I switched at some point was due to the geographical advantage of Ely over Atikokan. I walked into their door for the first time on a bright June day in 1985. Although I was a struggling student, I had saved enough money for full outfitting. The trip was so great that I returned in August, but with my own camping gear this time. Bud and Jim took one look at my junk and insisted on switching out my cheap, rickety equipment for the real thing, and basically fully outfitted me for my own safety, even though I didn't have the money. That's the kind of guys they are. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as Bud's son Jeremy is now running the business, and it continues to prosper and grow. The reason Bud shared the cabin info is because I too was a trapper, and I've always dreamed of spending time on a Northwoods wilderness trap line. I mentioned that to Bud almost 5 years ago as he transported me to the Beaver House entry point, and that's when he told me about the cabin. Can you imagine how difficult the conditions must be out there during a sub-zero Quetico winter night? These are amazing people. Other mentors include Jeep Latterell, who I think is the most experienced BWCA and Quetico guide, fisherman, hunter, and trapper living today. He did all that while running an extremely successful resort and outfitting service. For many years on my solos, I somehow was lucky enough to have him personally drive me out to the drop-offs. Each trip provided me with valuable teachings and intriguing stories. He never wasted words, so I was careful to listen closely, and I used to sit on the floor facing him with my hands cupped behind my ears to ensure that I wouldn't miss anything over the din of the outboard. Other mentors include Bob and Mindy Latterell. When I first met this great family, Bob was fishing some local bass tournaments, and he had just won first place on Moose Lake for smallmouth, so he's a valuable source of fishing intel, as well as super knowledgeable as to the best routes through the parks and all things logistical. Mindy has been running the portage for as long as I can remember. She interacts with everyone who passes through, so is an encyclopedia of knowledge and current conditions. She has spent a lifetime exploring this wilderness and has caught more big game fish than most of us.
I'm Bill. I'm currently live in New Jersey, but I'm here with my friends from Arkansas, Troop 23.
Wow, you guys really came a long way.
Sure did. And we're up here enjoying Northern Tier. It's a Scout high adventure.
Right.
And so our group of 8 adults and scouts came out with our fantastic guide. AJ's been fantastic. We went out and it was a 7-day trek. And so we're just finishing up.
Can you give me one highlight of the trip, if there was that one event or that 2 or 3?
Well, we were out in Quetico Bay and the waves got really high and it was fantastic getting a chance to kind of surf those back in. We turned the boat and came in with them. Really great. And seeing Silver Falls was amazing. But just getting out away from everybody.
Yeah.
Emerald Lake, it was just us. And we had a great, just kind of a quiet day where the scouts just did whatever. It was really, really fun.
And you know, kudos to you. You're a modern day hero for introducing these kids and reinforcing these cultures.
Derek has been on the team for almost a decade, and my nickname for him is Derek the Dependable. Like most of the team, he is a thriving outdoorsman in his own right, in addition to being a talented photographer. Over the years, he's become intimately familiar with the terrain surrounding the lodge. Although it's not advertised or formalized, I've encountered many guests who have raved about his disposition towards helping customers maximize their enjoyment index by directing them to the best local fishing, biking, hiking, northern lights gazing, you name it, options that are oftentimes right on the periphery of the property.
Part of Ely culture is the use of natural materials to make useful things. Oh, my wife would love those. So these gals have a production line set up here, and you're the primary artist.
I am.
And of course, they hooked me into buying this beautiful piece right here. I can't wait to get that home.
And our mother was Native Alaskan.
Oh. Okay. So we've got mom, daughter. Wow, Native Alaskan. You know, I think a lot about the Ojibwa when I'm in the woods.
Yes.
So here we are in downtown Ely, and I had a little battery issue with the van, and I met this fine gentleman who is going to help me out. So John here, unbelievably, I just met him, and I was telling him about my experience last year getting put in the Snow Bay and then being literally stuck on Lac LaCroix for a week. Couldn't go beyond that and had to turn around and go back with the outfitter. I was lucky to get back on the boat because I wasn't on the manifest. But John here actually went in with Stu Alstoff, the Boundary Waters Journal publisher. He was on that guided trip, and they actually went through that portage at Curtin Falls. Can you tell me, John, what that was like going through that portage?
The portage was all right at the beginning, but halfway through it was flooded. So we had to go back and get the canoes.
Wow.
I've done 14 with Stu, and I've been doing it. My first trip was the first year. His first issue was on the newsstand. I came home and I was his second longest subscriber.
No kidding. I bet you have every issue.
Everyone.
I'll be darned. That is great. I'm a big fan of Stu myself.
He's a great man.
I can't think of anyone next to Sigurd Olsen who's contributed more to the boundary waters in the Quetico than
I totally agree. I totally
And
agree.
here's a guy that hunts, fishes. He just is the legitimate all-American outdoorsman.
It's still unbelievable with fishing in wilderness. He's in his
And I
60s.
can't believe how strong he is.
He said he goes by me like a rock.
Oh, it's amazing. John, I really appreciate your sharing some of those memories with me because Stuart, again, I think is the Quetico and the Boundary Waters hero of the day. Nobody brings more information to the public than him.
I agree. If there was a Mount Rushmore, his face would be on it.
While I will, of course, say thank you again for all the learning and laughs, I should also bring to light some observations I made while on Tennessee Island in terms of how they exercise the team charters. Regarding game fish stewardship, they only had 2 fish meals in an entire week at the rate of 2 fish per man, whereas I ate a couple walleyes nearly every day for 3 weeks. As for the no-trace camping, they actually ended up carrying out some garbage left by others. There wasn't so much as a bread tie left on that pristine island. John's writings have inspired and educated me for many years. This book is an encyclopedia of everything that is Quetico and serves as one of my most valuable research assets. This canoe is an absolute joy to paddle.